Hi there, I got exciting stuff to share with you today. I just released version 0.3 of Jessie, which brings big changes to the framework. It also makes the installation of the framework so much easier thanks to making Docker a first-class citizen of our ecosystem. Without further ado, allow me to show you all the essential features of this release. To create a new Jessie project, first I will go into the directory that I want my project to live in. Next, I'm going to create a new project by cloning it from GitHub. I can do that by running git clone http github.com/jessieai/project template. I can also specify a custom name here. I will name my project test-bot. It should be ready in a few seconds. Next, I cd into testbot. Next, I have to create an environment file for my project. An example environment file is shipped with every new Jessie project, so all I have to do is to duplicate that file. The copy command in Unix operating systems is cp, which stands for copy. So I'll type cp.mv.example .mv. Depending on your environment setup, you might have to open your .mv file and modify the values. The default values will work for most people. Generally, you have two options for how to set up your environments. One is to use Docker, and the second one is to install everything natively on your machine. Each option has its own cons and pros. I usually recommend starting with Docker because it is easier to get started, and if you didn't like it for any reason, you can easily remove the containers and there won't be any leftovers, and then maybe move on to the native setup if you wanted to. But the other way around is difficult. I'm gonna start with Docker first, and then I will show you how to start Jessie with the native environment setup. The good news is that Docker is now a first-class citizen in Jessie. If you cd into the Docker directory inside your Jessie project, you will find all the necessary configurations for running Docker. So, assuming you already have Docker installed on your machine, all you have to do now is to run docker-compose up. Before I hit enter, I have to mention that the first time that you do this, Docker is going to pull all the required images from Docker Hub, which is like the GitHub equivalent for Docker images. Alright, when it's done, you will see a URL being printed on your terminal. Go ahead and copy this URL and open it with your browser. I didn't change the default password in my .mv file, so the password has to be test. If you're in the home page, it means everything is up and running. To terminate the application, open your terminal and press Ctrl and C. Before I move on, I want to show you how you can run Docker in your terminal's background. To do this, all we have to do is to run the same command, but this time add a -d at the end of it. But remember that after running the docker compose up command, we had to wait a few seconds for the containers to be up, which is why if I refresh the page now, it won't work. But if I wait like 10 seconds and refresh it again, it should be fine. To stop the containers, you have to run docker-compose stop. Alright, that's all you had to know about Docker at this time. Now let's move on to the native setup. A couple of services such as Python, PostgreSQL, and Redis are needed by Jessie. And now that we are not using Docker anymore, you have to install those by yourself. Of course, if you check out our documentation website, you will find a step-by-step guide for each of them. Assuming you already have done that, all you have to do now is to open your .mv file and modify two values that right now have been set to work with Docker. So I have to open the project in my editor. I'll type cd ... which will take me to the previous directory. I personally use PyCharm. To open the current directory inside PyCharm, I will type charm . Feel free to use any other method or any other editor that you want. Now open the .mv file. Now all you have to do is to change the values of Postgres and Redis to localhost. The values already exist, so all I have to do is to comment and uncomment them. To start the application, type Jesse run. Let's copy this address again and paste it into our browser. Alright, everything looks good. Before we move on to the next section, let me show you a few cool features. On your homepage, you will find a few helpful links and also a search box which will search inside our help center. If you couldn't find something on our documentation website, it will probably be inside our help center. And my personal favorite feature of this release is that you can toggle the dark mode. I guess I prefer the light mode. Let's also give the search a try. I'll type test, and there we go. We have the results. After starting Jesse, the first thing that you want to do is to import some candles from the exchange. Let's head over to the import candles page. The exchange is Binance, which is what I want. And I want BTC USDT pair. And here we can choose the start date. And the finish date is always today. I'm gonna pick the start of this month. While we are importing from Binance, we can open a new tab and import candles from another exchange at the same time. For this one, let's choose Bitfinex. And for symbol, I will write down ETH-USD. The same date is fine, so I'll just press start. Looks like the other tab has finished importing. Alright, now let's move on to the backtesting section. Let's run our first backtest. The exchange and symbol are exactly the ones that we imported candles for. And the 1 minute time frame is exactly what I want. So now we need to choose a strategy. An example strategy is shipped with every new Jesse project. As for the options, I will enable to export charts and quant stats reports. Let's choose the starting date of our backtest and the finish date and click on the start button. It finished backtesting in 0.26 seconds and it executed no trades. The reason is that the example strategy that we just executed is only a template for your other strategies. It has no entry signals in it. So let's go ahead and create a new strategy. I will name it Test Strategy 01. As you can see, it will also show you the location of that strategy file. So I'm gonna press create now, and now we have to open that file inside our editor. Alright, now let's think what the logic of our strategy should be. I want it to be something super simple because the whole point of it is to be another example that executes a few trades. I think a simple death cross strategy is a good place to start for us. So we're gonna have two email lines, one with a shorter period and the other with the longer one. And whenever the shorter one goes above the longer one, we open a long position. Whenever that is not the case anymore, we liquidate our open position. Let's begin. First, I will define a property called short EMA. And it has to return ta.ema, and then I have to pass the candles. And for the period, I will pass 20. Then I duplicate this one and create another one and rename it into long EMA. And for the period, I will pass 40. Inside my shoot long method, I will say return self.short EMA is bigger than self.long EMA. Next, I will go inside my goLong method to specify the position sizing. I will define a variable called quantity and assign it utils dot size to quantity, and I will pass my balance. Next, I have to pass entry price. So actually, let's define the entry price first. So I'll say entry underline price equals to self.price, which points to the closing price of the current candle. Now that I have the entry price, I can pass it inside my size to quantity utility function. Now that we have both the quantity and entry price, we can define our entry order. I'll say self.buy equals quantity, comma, entry price. Next, we have to say that whenever our entry condition is no longer valid, we want to liquidate our open position. Def update position if self.short EMA is less or equal than self.long EMA, self.liquidate. Alright, now let's go and try to execute this strategy instead. So it looks like we actually executed 55 total trades and the P&L is minus 12%. Other than this new chart that shows the equity curve, we still have access to the legacy chart, which is what the CLI version used to generate. I'm gonna open the file that I just downloaded, and here you can even see the buy and sell orders on the chart. Let's take a look at the quant stats report. I'm gonna download it and open it with Firefox. There are many more charts and metrics inside the quant stat reports, but because we didn't execute many trades and the period was really short, we don't see much data inside these charts. Anyways, nonetheless, they are useful. Now allow me to show you other features of the backtesting page. More specifically, the features that are new and you couldn't do with the CLI version. So let's say that I am curious to know what would have been the performance of my strategy with another time frame. And it would be really useful if I could have them inside different tabs. This will make it easier for me to compare the performance of various time frames. Fortunately, we can do exactly that with the new dashboard. I can either do that by opening a new tab and then running a backtest, or pressing the Start in a New Tab button. The other tab will be identical to the tab that we were in. That means it will have the same symbol, exchange, time frame, etc. Let's open a third one with the 3 minutes time frame. I think that's enough for the backtesting page. Just to recap, the new feature which allows you to create tabs is incredibly powerful when it comes to comparing various time frames, symbols, or strategies. Inside our current strategy file, we hard-coded the period numbers for our EMA lines. But what if we're not sure if we chose the best numbers? So let's use the optimization mode of Jesse so that it would find it for us. I'll begin by defining a hyperparameters method, which is supposed to return a list of dictionary objects. For the short EMA, I will give it the name short EMA period. And the type is int. And the minimum value will be 10. And the maximum value will be 30. And the default value is going to be 25. Then I will duplicate this one and rename it into long EMA period. And the minimum is going to be now 40. The maximum number will be 80. And the default will be 50. Now we need to tell our strategy to use these dynamic values instead of the hard-coded ones. Instead of the number 25, I'm gonna use the hyperparameter that I defined. All hyperparameter values are living inside a variable named HP, which stands for hyperparameters, and the type of it is a dictionary. So I'll type self.hp, and then I have to pass the name as the key of my dictionary. And I'll do the same for long EMA. I'm gonna change the time frame and the period into something that I know will be profitable, because the point of the optimization mode is to make your numbers better, not turn them from negative into positive. Let's hit the start button. So it just started generating the initial population. This phase could take a while, so I'm going to skip the video until it's over. Alright, it just finished the first part of the optimization mode, which was generating the initial population. And the second half is going to be about improving from those individuals that already exist. Here we have a table which shows our best DNA candidates. They are ranked from the best one to the worst one. We can also see some other useful metrics such as the number of total executed trades and the P&L of the strategy over that period. For the sake of this demo, I'm gonna assume that my number one DNA is actually my best one and the one that I'm going to use inside my strategy. So I'm going to copy the DNA string for my best candidate DNA here. And actually, before injecting it inside my strategy, I'm gonna run another backtest without this DNA string so that we can compare to the results afterwards. So here the P&L number is 11.26. And now I'm gonna tell my strategy to use this DNA. We can do that by defining a method called DNA, which is supposed to return a string value. So I'm just gonna return the string DNA value that I copied before. Let's open a new tab so we can compare the two together. Every other option is identical. And now I can press the start button. And if we check the P&L number, it is now 12.88%, versus before it was 11.26. Alright, let's for a second assume that we have a profitable strategy and now we want to run it live. In our current navbar, there is no page for live trading. And if I open the settings page, there is no tab for live either. To install the plugin, you have to have an account on our website, which is jesse.trade. I'm gonna log in with an account which I registered a few minutes ago. An active license is mandatory for installing the plugin. As you can see, I have already purchased one. So now I can navigate into the API tokens page and create a new API token. You can name this whatever you want. I'm gonna name it dev. I have to copy this license key here to open it inside my .env file. Now to actually install the plugin, I'm going to stop my current session and run jesse install live. This command will download the correct version of the plugin for my operating system, Python version and Jesse version, and install it for me. That's it. Now I can run the application again. And this time we can find the live page here. And if we open the settings page, we have a live tab. Now what about Docker? I'm gonna stop this session. And just so it would be clearer, I'm gonna uninstall the plugin. So if I execute Jesse run again and check out the dashboard, there shouldn't be a live tab anymore. Let's stop the session one more time and cd into the Docker directory. To install the plugin using Docker, all you have to do is to make sure the license key is set inside your .env file, which we already did. We should also return the values for Postgres and Redis from localhost into Postgres and Redis. Now, I don't even have to run any specific command to install the plugin with Docker. All I have to do is to run the same command that we ran for Docker before, which is docker-compose up. This time, because the value for my license key is set inside my .env file, Jesse is going to pick up on that and install the plugin right after starting the containers. If I open my browser again and refresh it, we can see that the live tab is here again. So let's go ahead and start a paper trading session. First, I'm gonna choose the strategy and the 1 minute time frame is fine. I'll also turn on the debug mode and press start. Give it a few seconds to import the initial candles. Alright, we have a real-time chart here and the table which shows me which symbol, time frame and strategy I'm running. I can check out the logs and error logs also, which I don't have any right now. Here I can see my positions, which I have only one closed one at the moment. And here it should show me my open orders. You can also adjust your candles chart like you used to on TradingView. I guess that's enough for the paper mode. Now let's try to run this strategy on a live market. Because this is a test strategy, I think it's best to run it on a testnet exchange rather than an actual one. Binance has a pretty good testnet that we can use for this purpose. Because this is a testnet account, I don't have to generate API keys. They've already been generated for me. All I have to do is to copy them from here. And then open my .env file again, scroll down, and paste it right here where it says testnet Binance Futures API key. One more time for the secret, and we should be good to go. Now let's head back to GS's dashboard, press the new session button, and turn off the paper trade option. Before I press the start button again, I have to change the exchange into testnet Binance Futures. Alright, looks like it's working just fine. Let's check out the chart to make sure they are showing the same data. Here it is the 1 minute time frame. And yes, they look identical. We are near the closing time of the current candle. Let's see if it's going to execute any trades. 57, 58, 59. Alright, looks like it didn't. The reason for that is probably because our entry rules are not being met right now. That means the short EMA is not above the long EMA, so it's not going to open any trades. So let's edit our current strategy and tell it to always open the long position. For that, I will tell our should long method to always return a true value. I think it's also a good idea to modify our go long method to use multiple orders instead. To do that, I have to assign a list to my self.buy property. So spending all of our capital is no longer a good idea, so I will just use 10% of my current capital per each order. By the way, notice that after a few seconds of starting the live session, my balance is going to be automatically set for me the same as it is on the exchange. So let's check out the exchange to make sure it is showing the same number. Both the available margin and my wallet balance are displaying the same number. There's only 5 seconds until the next closing candle. Alright, looks like we submitted a few orders. One of them was a market order which got immediately executed, and the other 3 are limit orders. And they are active, that means I can see them on my chart. I can also check out my current open position, the quantity of it, current price, entry price, P&L. And if I go on the testnet website, I can see the same numbers here. So it looks like they are both in sync. And here are the orders that are currently active. We are near to the next closing candle, and according to our strategy, it should liquidate all our open positions. And exactly that just happened. And all of our previous orders have either the status of executed or cancelled. And if we check the exchange, we should see the same thing. No open positions and no open orders. And that's it. There were more features to cover, but I wanted to keep this video short. So make sure to give this release a try and see what's new for yourself. In the near future, I will be making more tutorials about algo trading, so make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.